Hey everyone, it's Professor Clark, and in this lecture we're going to do a review of the nominative plural. The nominative plural is generally not that difficult, but we are going to go over a number of exceptions and irregular words, so this should be a very helpful lecture. Let's start with a quick overview of when we use the nominative. This is pretty straightforward. The two main uses of the nominative are as the subject of a sentence and in certain forms of the predicate. So the subject of the sentence is, for example, the subject of a verb. So if we say, for instance, Ivan читает книгу. Ivan is the subject of the sentence and is in the nominative. We also use the nominative when we say that something is something. Both of those are going to be in the nominative. So if we say, for instance, Mать учительница, а отец инженер. My mother is a teacher and my father is an engineer. All of that is in the nominative. Mать and отец are the subject of those clauses, and then учительница and инженер are the predicates of those clauses, and we're saying that something is something, and so that is also going to be in the nominative. Before we jump into the nominative plural, let's do a quick review of the nominative singular. So we have a chart here on slide 3 of the PowerPoint, and we have masculine, feminine, and some masculine nouns. So in the second category, most of them are going to be feminine, but a few will be masculine, and then we have neuter nouns. So masculine hard stem nouns have a 0 ending. That's a 0 there in that cell of the table. And examples would be things like magazine, stol, or учебник. Soft stem masculine nouns can end in мягкий знак, like словарь, or конь, or преподаватель, or they can end in и краткое, like музей, герой, and Sergei. And then for these mainly feminine but occasionally masculine nouns that end in a or ya, the hard stem ones will end in a, such as mama, сестра, and улица. And we also have these examples like papa and dedushka, which end in a but are grammatically masculine and will take masculine modifiers and masculine past tense verb forms. And then we have soft stem nouns, such as kuchnia or судья, that end in ya. Kuchnia is feminine. Судья is one of this small number of nouns ending in ya that is masculine. These soft stem feminine nouns can also end in iya, like лекция, and they can end in мягкий знак, like любовь or площадь. And then finally, we have neuter nouns that in the nominative singular are going to end either in о if they are hard stem, like окно or письмо, or е if they're soft stem, like море and поле. And we also have this group that ends in ие, like занятия and общежитие, that are also soft stem neuter nouns. So that is a brief review of the nominative singular. Now let's look at the nominative plural. And we're going to start with the basic regular formation of the nominative plural. And there's a chart on slide 4 of the PowerPoint, and let's go through it. It's divided into masculine, mainly feminine, and neuter, and then hard stem, soft stem, and velar and husher stem. Let's start with masculine. The hard stem nouns are going to take y. You are going to add y to that 0 ending. So magazine becomes magazínly, stol becomes stali. And then we have soft stem nouns, soft stem masculine nouns that end in и краткое or мягкий знак. And in those cases, you're going to remove the мягкий знак or и краткое and add e, the soft e. So преподаватель becomes преподаватели. We drop the мягкий знак and add e. Музей becomes музеи. We drop the и краткое and add e. And then we have velar and husher stem masculine nouns, and these are going to take e, the soft e, as well because of the 7-letter spelling rule. We can't write the hard y after velars and hushers, so we have to write the soft e. So bank becomes banki with a soft e, учебник, учебники with a soft e, pляж becomes pляжи. And you're going to hear a hard y because zh is always hard, but you're going to write a soft e. Now let's look at mainly feminine, but some masculine nouns. These are those that end in a and ya. If they end in a and they are hard stem, the a is going to be replaced with an I. So mama becomes momly. Papa, which is grammatically masculine but ends in a, becomes papi, just the same as mama becomes momly. And then we have, for example, sistra becomes siostry. And the I here, replacing the a, is perfectly regular, but note the stress shift and the shift from ye to your. So this is something you want to watch out for in bisyllabic nouns. They will frequently have a stress shift. If they are n-stressed in the nominative singular, the stress will frequently shift onto the stem in the nominative plural. And if there is a ye there in that stem, there are certain instances like sistra, siostri, and žena, žony, where it will become your. Unfortunately, you just have to memorize those, but sistra, siostri, and žena, žony are two of the most commonly used words where that happens. All right, let's look at soft stem nouns in this group. You're going to drop the ya, if it ends in ya, and add i. So kuchnia becomes kuchni. Sudya, a judge or a referee, becomes sudyi. And again, note that stress shift. Leksia, which ends in iya, is going to become leksii. You have two e's back to back there. Leksia becomes leksii. If you have a feminine noun that ends in mjachkiznak, which are fairly common, you will drop the mjachkiznak and add e as well. So tsirkov, a church, becomes tsirkvi. Note the fleeting vowel in tsirkov. So that of ending, the o ve mjachkiznak ending is often going to lose its o, as in lyubov, lyubvi, tsirkov, tsirkvi. And then if we have velar or husher stems for these feminine nouns or nouns that end in a or ya, they are going to add e. You will drop the a. Of course, you will only have a after a velar or a husher. You will drop that a and then add e. So sabaka becomes sabaki, kniga, knigi. And then finally, we have neuter nouns. If they are hard stems, so they end in o, that o is going to become a. So okno becomes okna, and pismo becomes pisma. Note again the shifting stress. It is n-stressed in the nominative singular, and then the stress shifts on to the stem in the nominative plural. Okno, okna, pismo, pisma. And then we have the opposite thing happening with the stress in two of our examples from soft stem neuter nouns. So we have Moria and Polya. And in the nominative plural, they become Maria and Polya. So the stress on the stem in the nominative singular, Moria and Polya, shifts to the ending in the nominative plural, Maria, Polya. And then finally, we have these iya nouns like zanyatiya, and we just drop the ye and add ya as we would with any other soft stem neuter noun. So zanyatiye becomes zanyatiya. There are only a few velar or husher stem nouns that are neuter, but those, regardless of whether the final vowel is a ye or an a, are going to add a. So zrelishe, sort of a sight or a spectacle, becomes zrelisha. Malako, milk, becomes malaka. So there we have an overview of basic regular nouns in the nominative plural. Now let's start looking at some exceptions. The first exception we're going to look at are nouns that are hard stem masculine nouns in the nominative singular, but then add mjachkiznak and a stressed ya in the nominative plural. And there are three important nouns in this group that you need to know. The first is drug, friend, which becomes druzya. D-R-U-Z, mjachkiznak, stressed ya in the nominative plural. And note the mutation, g goes to z. We also have mush, husband, which becomes muzja. And again, M-U-J, mjachkiznak, and then ya, and the ya is stressed. And the final important noun in this group is slin, son, which becomes synovya. Note once again that we have a mutation. We actually add the suffix of to the noun when we add these plural endings. So syn, synovia. The next group of exceptions we're going to look at appear exactly the same in written form, but they have a different stress. And this is important to keep track of because while they look the same in written form in the nominative plural, they will take different endings in the genitive plural. So it's important to keep these two groups separate in your mind. And this group is comprised of hard stem masculine nouns and soft stem neuter nouns that will take an unstressed mjachki znak ja in the nominative plural. And the most important nouns in this group are brat, brother, which becomes bratya in the nominative plural. Be, a, te, mjachki znak ja. Stool, chair, becomes stulja. Se, te, u, l, mjachki znak ja. And then platya, dress, becomes platya, p, l, a, t, mjachki znak ja, which appears completely regular in the nominative plural. It is completely regular in the nominative plural, but this noun is in the same irregular group in the genitive plural. So just start thinking of it as part of this group already. The next group of exceptions are the nouns mat and Deutsch, which have their own declension. And in this declension, we add the suffix jer before adding any ending. And so in the nominative plural, mat is going to become materi and Deutsch is going to become deutscheri. As a side note, please notice how family and friend nouns are often irregular or have their own forms. This is just a fact of Russian that most of the nouns denoting family and friends have something irregular about them. So if you see a noun denoting a family member or a friend, assume that it has something irregular to it. The next group of irregular nouns we're going to look at are the mja nouns. This is a small but very important group of neuter nouns that end in mja in the nominative singular. And I know they look feminine. You are not expecting a noun that ends in ja in the nominative singular to be neuter, but these nouns are. So if you see a noun ending in m ja in the nominative singular, assume that it's probably neuter. And nouns in this group that end in m ja or mja in the nominative singular and in yna, it's frequently stressed, in the nominative plural. And the two most important nouns in this group are imya, first or given name, which becomes imina in the nominative plural, and vremya, time, which becomes vrimina in the nominative plural. The next group of nouns we're going to look at is a fun little group. It is the group for baby animals. And nouns denoting baby animals often end in yonak. This yonak ending indicates a baby or a baby animal, and it has its own special declension. So if it ends in yonak in the nominative singular, it will end in yata, or occasionally ata if the 8-letter spelling rule comes into effect, in the nominative plural. So, for example, katyonak, a kitten, becomes katyata in the nominative plural. Utyonak, a duckling, becomes utyata in the nominative plural. Tsiplyonak, a chick or a baby chicken, becomes tsipliata in the nominative plural. Tilyonak, a calf, becomes tilyata in the nominative plural. Please note the word ribyonak, a baby human, can become ribyata, where it means guys, or dieti, where it means children. So ribyonik has two plurals. It has the regular plural ribyata and the completely different word dieti, and these two plurals have two different meanings. Ribyata does not mean children. It means like guys or lads, as in, hey guys, what's up? Dieti is the plural that means children or babies. The next group of irregular nouns we're going to look at are nouns ending in anin in the nominative singular that denote citizenship. And in this case, they take Anya in the nominative plural. So Anglichanin, an Englishman, becomes Anglichania. We drop the in and we add ye. Gражданин, a citizen, becomes Gраждания. We drop the in and add ye, and with this word there is also a stress shift. And finally, although this does not exhaust all the possibilities for irregular or exceptional nouns in the nominative plural, but I feel like we need to wrap it up. So finally, let's look at a couple of nouns that have just completely different words in the plural. So the most important of these are человек, a human being or a person, which becomes люди in the nominative plural. And then, as I already mentioned, ребенок, baby or child, becomes дети if you are meaning babies or children in the nominative plural. And so there we have the nominative plural. You might think going into it that it's a fairly straightforward thing because it's the nominative, but there are a number of exceptions that you do need to memorize. And I recommend, as usual with something that's kind of complicated, taking it in chunks. So maybe work on one slide at a time, or download the MP3 and listen to this lecture separately as you're going about cleaning your room or something like that, to try and absorb it slowly and in pieces over time. So there we go. That is our overview of the nominative plural. I hope you found it helpful and enjoy your Russian.